I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network, and this is a breaking news alert. A big update in Dominion's $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit against Fox, which is set to go to trial in Delaware Superior Court in the next few weeks. The judge, Judge Davis, who's presiding over this defamation lawsuit, just denied Fox's motion for summary judgment, which sought to dismiss the claims brought by Dominion. It was a last-ditch effort to try to get rid of the case. The judge denied Fox's motion, but get this, the judge then granted Dominion's motion for summary judgment that Dominion filed against Fox. And the judge found that there was no disputed evidence that the statements made by Fox and its executives and its hosts were false. So the falsity prong of Dominion's defamation lawsuit will already be deemed to have been demonstrated before it even goes to a jury. So really, the only issue that a jury is going to determine is whether the statements were made on Fox with what's called actual malice, because Dominion is a public figure. It is a public entity. It has been thrust into the public light given its position. They can't just show defamation or the false statements with mere negligence. They have to show actual malice. So that's all they're going to have to demonstrate to a jury. And as we've discussed here before on the MeidasTouch network, there seems to be ample evidence of actual malice, that these hosts and the executives at Fox knew about the falsity, but because of their desire to improve their ratings and because of their desire to try to make sure Newsmax and these other right-wing channels wouldn't take away their audience share, they continued to lie to their viewers and then privately on text messages talk about the fact that they were lying to their viewers and actually mocked their viewers on these text messages. We saw the message between Tucker Carlson and Hannity and Laura Ingraham and Suzanne Scott, the CEO, and Rupert Murdoch and Lachlan Murdoch and all of the other executives. So this spells big trouble for Fox in this $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit. The judge's order, Judge Davis' order, Delaware Superior Court judge, about 130 pages. I've gone through the full order. I want to share with you the highlights for democracy and Dominion with you, and it definitely spells doom and big trouble for Fox. So they probably view this as lowlights for them, but this is highlights for democracy and the truth. So in the opening paragraph of this 130-page order, the court explains, the court held a hearing on the motion by Fox News and by the Fox Corporation. They're different entities, but both are in this case. And the Dominion motion on March 21, 2023 and March 22, 2023. There's 2 days of hearings. At the conclusion of the hearing, the court took the various motions under advisement. This is the court's decision on the case. For the reasons set forth below, it says that the Fox motions are denied, and the Dominion motion, though, is granted in part and denied in part. The only part it was denied on was this issue of actual malice, which the court said, we're just going to leave that for the jury. But the part that it was granted on was the court said that the court is going to make the finding that the statements made by Fox about Dominion was false. Just let me very quickly explain to you what a summary judgment motion is. So when a case gets filed, the first type of motion to dismiss is often just called a motion to dismiss. In some states, it's called a demur. In the federal rules, it's Rule 12b-6. So it's talked about differently, but that's just, you have to accept the allegations on the face of the complaint as true. And when you file that motion to dismiss originally, you're saying that even if we accept as true all of the facts in the complaint, the plaintiff has not asserted any causes of action. Fox previously filed one of those motions to dismiss, and that was denied by this judge. Now, a summary judgment motion is after all of the discovery takes place in a case. So after all of the depositions, after all of the documents are obtained, after all of the written discovery like interrogatories and requests for admission, where admit this, admit this, admit that, where the parties can admit or deny, document requests, getting the emails and the text messages, interrogatories, asking questions. So after that whole process gets complete, and after expert discovery takes place, a summary judgment is arguing, Fox is saying, based on all of the facts that we now have, because we have all these depositions, Fox argues that Dominion failed to make their case, so dismiss it before it even goes to a jury. Denied. Dominion in their summary judgment says, look at all of the facts, Judge. We've demonstrated all of the elements of our claim. We shouldn't even have to go in front of a jury. Only on the issue of damages should we go in front of a jury. We don't have to go in front of the jury on an issue of liability. And here the court said, you know what, Dominion? You're right regarding some of the elements of defamation that you've hit. You basically demonstrated that these statements were false. You demonstrated that they were published to a third party without authorization. The part that you have to show to a jury, because we'll say that there's disputed facts, is actual malice. But that will be for a jury. And Fox has not negated your ability to demonstrate damages. So we're going to leave damages up to a jury, and the jury's going to decide those damages. So this was a big win for Dominion. And because, again, Dominion is this public figure, they have to demonstrate that Fox engaged in these defamatory acts with actual malice. And so here's what the court says. The court says it was crystal clear that the statements by Fox were false. Let's read from page 43. While the court must view the record in the light most favorable to Fox, the record does not show a genuine issue of material fact as to falsity. Through its extensive proof, Dominion has met its burden of showing there is no genuine issue of material fact as to falsity. In other words, the judge reviewed the record and said Fox can't even make an argument that any reasonable juror would ever look at these facts and say, you know what, these statements were true, right? So the court's saying, under everything I've read, there's no juror out there who's going to disagree with me or just disagree with the clear facts that Fox was saying false things about Dominion. That's what that means, and through extensive proof. Fox, therefore, had the burden to show an issue of material fact existed in turn. Fox failed to meet its burden. The evidence developed in this civil proceeding demonstrates that it is crystal clear, and the court bolds, crystal clear, that none of the statements relating to Dominion about the 2020 election are true. Therefore, the court will grant summary judgment in favor of Dominion on the element of falsity. The court then goes on to say Dominion is entitled to summary judgment on the element of publication. In other words, that Fox published it and broadcast it. So it's false. It was published with falsity, just going through the elements. And then the only part that the court says it's not going to grant summary judgment is on actual malice. And the court says, despite the fact that Dominion showed extensive evidence of actual malice, that question is usually just an issue of fact. And we're just going to let the jury make that decision. But the jury's going to hear these statements were false. Now, one of the really big rulings also that's buried on page 69 of this 130-page ruling, which also spells doom for Fox, is right here, subsection G, where it says Fox cannot avail themselves of certain defenses like the neutral report and fair report privileges or the privilege for opinion. In other words, Fox was trying to argue as one of its defenses, hey, this was just opinion. We were engaged in neutral reporting. And the court saying, Fox, you can't even cite these privileges to the jury. You're not entitled to those privileges as a matter of law. So stop talking about this was mere opinion. Stop talking about this is some neutral reporting and you were just reporting on some controversial things that Donald Trump was saying. Jury's not going to get to hear those arguments. The jury's just going to get to hear you made false statements about Dominion. There's been a judicial finding of falsity. Now, jury, was it made with actual malice? If yes, Fox can be held responsible for billions of dollars in damages. And here you'll just see on page 66, subsection F, where it says, Fox is not entitled to summary judgment as to damages. And so that's Fox was trying to argue Dominion did not suffer billions of dollars in damages. And the court saying, jury gets to hear that. Jury gets to hear that. And then here's the conclusion. For the foregoing reasons, the motions by Fox are denied. The Dominion motion is denied as to the element of actual malice, and the Dominion motion is granted in part and denied as set forth above. The court will allow this civil action to go to a jury trial, and the jury questions will relate to publication as to Fox Corp, actual malice as to Fox News and Fox Corp, and whether Dominion incurred any damages. So this is a devastating order for Fox. You don't really get more devastating than this in a defamation case. Now, arguably, if Dominion would have demonstrated actual malice, and they would have demonstrated that, which is a high burden set by the Supreme Court in a case from like 40 years back called Times versus Sullivan, then the issue would just go to damages and would not go to actual malice. But I mean, here the fact that the jury's going to get to hear Fox made false statements, was it done with malice? And then you're going to see all of these statements from the Fox hosts and from the executives, and you'll see that it was done. And one of the ways you show actual malice, right, is intentional or with a reckless disregard for the truth. Intentional or reckless disregard for the truth. It's intentional. And if your fallback is that Tucker and Laura Ingraham and Hannity were engaged in and Rupert and Lachlan Murdoch and Suzanne Scott were engaged in a reckless disregard for the truth. I mean, it's quite obviously intentional. So this spells doom for Fox. This is big trouble for Fox. They tried to get the case dismissed. Not only did they lose and did not get the case dismissed, but Dominion won the falsity element. Now, just so you know, in summary judgment, if you partially win, this is, again, not the phase where a judge awards damages. That goes to a jury. The jury is instructed as follows. This court has already made a determination, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that Fox made false statements. What you are here to consider in determining whether or not Fox is liable, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is whether Fox acted with actual malice. To prove actual malice, Dominion will have to show that Fox either engaged in intentional conduct in publishing those false statements or that Fox engaged in a reckless disregard for the truth. If you find that Fox engaged in actual malice, move on to the next jury question. The next jury question is, how much has Dominion been damaged? Dominion is seeking at least $1.6 billion before punitive damages. Please make your ruling, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, and the jury will decide. That's exactly what you should expect to happen in trial. That's what will go down. That's the implication of this ruling. Horrific news for Fox, great news for Dominion, great news for the truth. And if you are a shareholder of Fox right now, if you are Rupert Murdoch, if you are anybody at Fox, this was devastating. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. Help us get to 1.5 million subscribers. We're almost there. Help us get to 1.5 million. Also, you can support this network by going to patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Check us out there. And finally, wherever you get your audio podcast, just search MeidasTouch Podcast. You can also search Legal AF Podcast. You can also search Political Beatdown Podcast and many, many more MeidasTouch podcasts. Check them out. It's free to subscribe. All right, hit subscribe right now here on our YouTube channel. It's free. Thank you so much for watching this update.
Love this video? Then you'll love the MeidasTouch podcast. Listen as my brothers and I break down the latest news and chat with top political leaders on the fastest growing pro-democracy podcast in the world. New episodes drop every Tuesday and Friday. Add the MeidasTouch podcast right now wherever you listen to your podcasts.